Hello and welcome back to the Logpile. This is my second Logpile chat, which I've just thought might become a series, who knows. It's basically me needing to chop up a lot of kindling ready for the winter, and while I do that soothing, calming task, I'm just going to have a chat with you, if that's all right. Sound good? All right, so my topic today is going to be how much space do you need to be a hobby homesteader? Because let's face it, as I said in my last Logpile chat video, we are not fully off-grid. We're not full-time homesteaders. We are not Tom and Barbara from The Good Life, which is loosely what the channel name is based on. If you don't know The Good Life, go and check it out. Richard Bryars, Felicity Kendall, it's just fantastic. I think one of the funniest UK sitcoms of all time. And it's basically just about a suburban couple who turn their back garden into a homestead and try and live off the land. But they try and do it 100%. Not here. We're hobby homesteaders. I don't know if that's a phrase I've made up, but that's certainly what we are. But it means more to us than just a hobby, and I do want to create a massive pile of firewood and loads of kindling for this winter. I won't be buying any. I didn't last year, I didn't the year before, and that's quite a saving. If you've got a log burner, it's quite a saving not to need to buy firewood and not to need to buy kindling, especially these days. I feel it's got even more expensive. So it's worth this effort, and I also happen to really enjoy this job, so off we go. I might chop some up as well. This is an old tyre I found on the beach, washed up, so I decided to bring it home, doing my civic duty, and also it's a free bit of stuff to use for chopping firewood. Here are my kindling buckets, my trusty hand axe or hatchet, and my trusty yellow gloves that make me feel like I'm on Yellowstone. Have you noticed how their gloves are always yellow? I looked up why, and I think it's just simply to do with the tanning process. Whether that's the case here or whether these are just yellow to look like Yellowstone, I don't know. Anyway, time to get splitting, and then we'll have a little chat about space. I'll just move my coffee. Obviously what I'm looking for here is clean pieces that look like they've got a nice straight fibre going through them. Fibre? What was it? Straight? Oh, I feel like I should know that word. I'll look it up and put it on the screen. That. Idiot boy. But I'm not picking up ones that have got what look like might be knots in, because obviously they're hard to split. Some of these are going to be better than others. This is what we always find. So for instance there, very knotty, no thank you. I can just go straight on a fire. Okay, same there. Want some really flat pieces. Okay, we'll start there. And as I've learnt over the years, oh, that's got a knot in it, see? I thought that was a good looking piece. If it's not easy to split within the first couple, I'll just toss it to one side and not kill myself. Because as you can tell, there's plenty of logs here for me to try. So some of them will be easy to split, some not. But let's get going. So, for those of you who are new to the channel, where I find myself in northeast Scotland here, still can't quite believe it, but it's a magical place we've moved to. This is an old farm that was a farm, it was a working farm for many generations, and we live in the farmhouse, and we own 8 acres of what used to be part of the farm. The actual fields that were farmed are now farmed by our next door neighbour, who is a farmer. So it's lovely, we get to see him farming the fields and his great team, but we don't have to do it ourselves, because obviously we are not qualified to do that. And that's not our job, we have other jobs. But what's left of the parcel of land is ours, and it's mixed woodland, fields, meadows. They're called hocks in Scotland because it's a low-lying meadow next to water, so that's hock. We've got a big hock and a small hock, both of which are quite big. Yes, what am I saying? Woodland, there's a top field I call it, which is just the sort of scraggly end of the main farm field. We've got the scraggly end, which adds up to about an acre. So the reason I'm telling you all this, blessed are we to have that, and it's just, I never stop being grateful for where we are. but we don't use it all to homestead. Of course we don't. We're not farmers. We don't have that sort of capacity, we don't have that sort of time, and we certainly don't have that sort of expertise. So I thought it might be interesting for you if I laid out just how much so far we're using to have a go at homesteading and to grow food, to process firewood. We keep chickens, there's an orchard. So I was just going to break down for you how much we're actually using. And I've worked it out using Google Maps. Okay, so I've got my notes here. So the first bit, let's get chopping. This is where you see how terrible I am at, can't even speak while I'm doing one thing, at multitasking. But I need to get a sissy stick before I get into this. Let me just get myself a sissy stick, and then I'll be happy. That'll do. Sissy stick makes it much safer. I don't think it's very well named. Sensible stick, I called it. Right, so what do we use of this 8 acres? First up, there's the kitchen garden, so-called because it attaches to the kitchen. How satisfying is it when it goes straight in the bucket, eh? I try and do that every time, but it hardly ever works. Kitchen garden, we've got 3 raised beds that I built as soon as we moved in here. We've got the greenhouse that it came with, and then we've got what used to be a big attractive flower bed that we're sacrilegious and we just completely destroyed and turned into food growing areas. So there's 2 main outdoor food growing areas and the greenhouse, and between all of that, that's most of our food production if you don't count the orchard. Raised beds have provided this year their biggest bounty yet. We've got about, I'd say, 2 months worth of garlic, so we don't need to be buying any garlic. We've got plenty of potatoes coming through. Not so great with the brassicas. I've had 1 hispy cabbage, I think, so far. But you know, it's trial and error, it's learning the good life, guys, remember? But we're nowhere near self-sufficient with food, and that was never the plan anyway. The plan is simply, as I've said before, to enjoy it and just try and just take pleasure in whatever we can take pleasure in, growing ourselves and eating ourselves. That kitchen garden project so far is taking up 150 square meters. I've done it in square meters, sorry if you prefer, I don't know, inches, feet, hectares. I will compare the square meterage at the end to acreage, because big properties in the UK are described in hectares and acres, but this is an 8 acre, give or take, homestead. So, but in the run up to that, I'm going to use square meters. Clear as mud? Good. So yes, 150 square meters goes to our kitchen garden. That's the biggest, apart from the orchard, space that we use. Okay? Now, this might be a tricky one to split. Let's see. Yeah. I could do it. Honest, I could. But no thank you. Just don't want to work that hard, you know. Also, I'm busy chatting, so I can't. You know. Next up, chickens. We happily keep chickens, mostly for pleasure, but also for eggs. And no, they don't provide us all of our yearly eggs. We frequently need to get some from the farm next door that makes lovely eggs as well. I say makes eggs. The farmer doesn't make eggs, does he? Chickens do. Oh, no thank you. Bye. That's 20 square meters. So we've got 150 in the kitchen garden. 20 square meters is their double pen that I've built them, and I've included the storage area and a little bit of grass, because we do sometimes let them out to have a little peck around. And then you've got to watch them when you do that, because they go straight for the kitchen garden and start causing havoc. They decimated our carrot crop, for example, before it could get growing. We had to plant more before we realised. Anyway, 20 there. I've included this area here, which is what I use. As you can see, I'm in a huge Dutch barn. Friend of ours stores his hay bales, his silage here. It's not silage, it's just hay. Obviously I'm not including that area, not including this. Just the amount of space I take up for all this firewood and processing it and everything. Also 20 square meters. And I'm being generous with each of these. So 20, 20, 150. Now the orchard, roughly speaking, is 300 square meters. But I'll come back to that. I've also included a generous 10 meters squared in our garage, shed, I'm not sure what to call it. It's a big farming shed that is where I keep all of my equipment, all the gardening tools, anything for the outdoors basically is stored in there. It would all add up. I've sort of done a rough calculation. It's about 10 meters squared I could fit easily into. And again, I've been a bit generous. And that's it. That's all we use to homestead. So if you add all of that up, kitchen garden, 150 meters squared. Chickens, 20. Firewood, this bit, 20. Orchard, 300. And garage, a generous 10. And as it happens, that adds up to 500 meters squared, which is less than 1/8 of an acre. Or, if you want to think of it this way, it's about 1.5% of the whole 8 acres, or 1/64th. So my point being, we're not using anything like the space we've got to do a bit of hobby homesteading, to grow some food, have some fun with firewood, as I'm currently doing, and to keep chickens. And you know, we've got space for, I'd say, comfortably 6 chickens. We're actually going to build, we've got another Nestera coop. I'll do another video on that, I think. We're going to build that for them. So we could, if in theory, have even more, but you know, there's only so many eggs you can eat as a family of 4. So, 500 meters squared. But if you take off the orchard, because we're very blessed and fortunate to have it, but most people don't have an orchard, just take off that 300 and obviously we're left with 200 meters squared, which is a back garden area, if you're lucky enough to have a greenhouse or space to build one, and a bit of storage in a garage, and an area for your chickens and an area for your firewood. I was sort of wondering what the UK average was, so I looked it up, and the UK average garden size is 188 metres squared. But in Scotland it's slightly higher, because Scotland's awesome. We've got an average of 226 metres squared per house with a garden. Obviously not everyone's lucky enough to have a garden, not everyone lives in a space. Some people live, go away wasp, some people live in flats and don't have garden space. Then you get talking about, you know, things like allotment space. My sister has an allotment space and is growing her own as well, and is doing really well with that. So I thought that was quite interesting. We're using the average size of a UK garden, pretty much, give or take. Because if you wanted to, obviously, if that was the entirety of your garden, what we're talking about is the Tom and Barbara approach of just getting rid of anything that isn't edible or, you know, livestock space, which obviously most people might not want to do. So you probably want to go on a smaller scale. But the point is, we might be doing things on a small scale, but you could go even smaller. You can. This is scalable, of course, to as big or as small as you like. So this could be a third, a quarter of the size, and I could still produce a lot of firewood. I'm just spreading out because I've got the space and it's nice to spread out, but I could have it smaller. We could have a smaller chicken coop. Garage space, yes. You'd need a fairly good garage for everything we use, including the beast, the mower, you know. The greenhouse, you get smaller greenhouses, and that doesn't need splitting down further, come on in. If you look at the gaps between our raised beds, I could have fitted all that in a bit smaller as well. Point being, you don't need to be as fortunate as me and own 8 acres in order to do this, okay? So the next thing I guess that we could talk about is things that we could do that we're fortunate enough to be able to consider doing down the line. And that includes, for me and Becky, we're really into the idea of growing, producing our own meat. So pigs, sheep, and I like the idea of having a goat, not for meat, but for milk and for fun. I love pygmy goats. But of course, any new animal you get is new responsibility, new cost, new time, new worry when they get sick. So we're just going bit by bit. Obviously, we've started with chickens, which are widely considered to be, rightly so in my opinion, the easiest livestock to look after and like a gateway drug to looking after other animals. But definitely on the list is a goat, maybe over here. Obviously, we need to put fences up and all that. Don't feel the need to raise cattle. Next door raises cattle for meat as well, and they've got lovely tasting beef, so we can buy from them. And there's also a really good butcher's in our local village. You wouldn't be watching this channel, I don't think, if you felt strongly about this, but if you do, I apologise, and all I say is, to each their own. Live your life the way you want to live your life. This is our choice. We are meat eaters, and I'm of the belief that if you're going to eat meat, you should A, use as much of the animal as you can if you've killed one, and B, you should understand about the provenance of your meat and where it comes from. And I just feel that we would be quite fulfilled knowing that if we tucked into some bacon for breakfast, that we knew where that pig lived, and we'd fed it, we'd looked after it, and I don't know, for some reason that just feels less icky than just picking it up off a supermarket shelf. To me, I know that others would not like it, and I think if we do it, it is going to be tough sending them off to the abattoir. But again, when they come back as meat, and you've made its life as good as and happy as you can, and healthy, I don't know. Feel free to share opinions about this. I know it's a fairly sensitive topic for some people, but those of you who eat meat, I urge you to consider where it comes from, and I'm sure you wouldn't be judging me for wanting to potentially raise my own. So, pork from pigs, obviously. Just in case anyone out there didn't know. And sheep, lamb is so expensive in the UK right now. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but lamb, my goodness. We just don't have it very often anymore because it's so expensive. But if we had our own, a few sheep could stay on top of the fields and the mowing for me a bit more. But it would be lovely to also have a bit of lamb that didn't cost the earth. So yeah, that's stuff we could do in the future. On the top field, everyone says things like you could put yurts on it and, have a campsite and everything, but I don't really want to run a campsite. Props to those who do. But also, the road here isn't geared up for lots of visitors, and I think the council would want us to change the road, and that's thousands and thousands of pounds and all that. So I don't think financially it would actually make much sense to try that just yet. Another thing I considered for that top field, which is an acre, is hiring it out for a solar farm. But again, then you've got to have solar panels on your top field instead of a lovely view. These are like blue sky things that we've thought about over the months and years that we've lived here. Don't know yet, don't know, and it's such a luxury to be able to even consider doing such things. But that's if we go down that road. We could equally just stay as we are and have our own eggs, grow a bit of vegetables, heat our home with firewood in the winter, which, by the way, we don't exclusively heat our home with firewood, it's still got central heating, but the room that we spend all of our time in is a log burner, and it's really nice in the evenings. And it's a lovely feeling to be burning your own wood and to not spend any money on it. So that's where we're at. I just thought it might be an interesting thing to think about how much space we actually use to do this and have this lifestyle. And it's not that much. It's really not. To some people it still is, I know. I appreciate that. But if we're talking average UK garden size, loads of us could be doing this if we find the time at the weekend. If you've got a really full-on job, I appreciate you. I'm a self-employed composer, so I can I can fudge time around things, around projects, around different contracts, different gigs. I get it. Not everyone can. Becky can't. She's got a 9-to-5 job, but she manages to fit things in at lunchtimes, evenings, weekends, you know. So I hope that maybe has inspired you to try a little bit of something. Chopping up some firewood, growing your own veg if you don't already. Keeping chickens comes highly recommended. It's really hands-off. They're hilarious to watch. And even the ones that are getting a bit long in the tooth, you can't really say that about a chicken, can you? They're getting a bit old, long in the beak, and they've sort of stopped, a couple of them have stopped producing now. They don't lay eggs, but they're just our pets, they're just fun. And no, we're not going to eat them. They're different from other chickens. I would obviously consider raising chickens for meat, but that's another big project, and that's a big deal as well. I've seen lots of YouTube videos on that subject. Not just yet for us, I don't think. But I do love keeping them as pets / egg makers. Anyway, I think that's probably enough waffle from me. I hope you enjoyed our second Logpile chat. Feel free to suggest some topics that we could cover here by the Logpile. I've got plenty I could natter about this place. But for now, I think we'll leave it there and I'll get on with some serious chopping. Because I can focus more on it when I don't try and string a sentence together at the same time. So I shall leave you. You can watch me chop a bit of kindling if you fancy for a little bit. And I'll thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time on Learning the Good Life. Thanks for watching. See you next week on Learning the Good Life.